My name is Shiva, and this is the winter solstice. This is a most auspicious day. It started out, the winter solstice started out in its earliest forms as a tool of manipulation and fear put out by religious leaders. Still that way in some parts of the world, where they see the days getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until today. And then on the day of the solstice, the religious leaders would do some sort of a fire ceremony or something to ward off the darkness, and so the days would start getting longer and longer again. And this became a form of manipulation through fear. It gave the religious leaders great power. And that was its earliest forms. Later on, as we became a little bit more sophisticated, it became different. For instance, in ancient Egypt, this is the day we would go into the storeroom and see how our food storage was set up, to see what we needed to plant for the coming year, to take and evaluate everything that we had done the previous year and plan for the next. This is a time when people sit back and do their taxes. They look at the year. It's a time of giving and appreciation of people that you know, giving gifts, just expressing your love for each other. There are two solstices, the winter and the summer, and there are two equinoxes. They are the yin and the yang. One is extrovert, the other is introvert. Today marks the zenith, the very top of the introvert energy. This is where we look inside, do evaluations. Very, very good time to meditate, do spiritual practice. Excuse me. I was having a meeting with my students that are here. I have students around the world actually, but I'm planning on coming here this next year on a regular basis. So we're planning for that. That's a good time to do it during the winter solstice. A good time to evaluate your life. This is a good time for you to sit down and individually take a big tablet, like a 8.5 by 14 tablet and a nice new pen, and just write out everything that you've ever done in this life, all your occupations, all of your hobbies, all of the things that have affected you positively, your education, your experiences, everything. And once you get your whole life kind of lined out there, all the major things that have happened to you, you can get a trajectory of how your life is going. And this is a good time to do that. To figure out why you incarnated here. We didn't just come here to be born and to mature a little bit, and to decay and to die. We came here for a reason. You are an eternal soul. You are without beginning and without end. You are created in the image and likeness of the Creator. You are the expression of awareness in the endless sea of awareness. And once you start looking at your life, you'll see that there's been one thing after the other that has led you to this place. There really hasn't been any wasted motion. I know you don't really see that right now, but it's true. You'll see it when you die. For instance, I've had, I think, 3 near-death experiences, and each time my life would pass in front of me, and I would see that everything was perfect. It doesn't seem like it when you're sitting in your chair, when you're experiencing pain, fear, when you're uncomfortable, when your life maybe is coming apart, or maybe it's really together and you're just afraid it's going to come apart. We cling to this reality, tooth and nail, and the rug is always being pulled out from under you. Everything has an expiration date. The Buddhists are a little kinder. They say everything's transitory. But people hang on to their lives, don't we? We hang on to our lives. We hang on to our jobs, our friends, our family, our country, our world. We hang on to each other, especially people who believe the way we believe. But in that sometimes we fall into a trap. And that would be the trap of duality. To have a sense that you are different from someone else. How could this be? The infinite is in everything. Everything is made up of the infinite. There is no separation. And yet here we are in a world of multiplicity, of great emotions, of great clinging. And this is because we're in a dream. And it's your dream. Becoming enlightened is easy. You just have to wake up. How do you wake up? I don't know. How do you wake up in the morning? I guess there comes a time when you've had enough rest. Or maybe something outside of you was so clamorous, like an alarm clock going off, that you wake up. You wake up, your eyes come open, you're startled, out of a dream sometimes. And you're facing a new day. At the end of every life, the alarm goes off. We open our eyes and we wake up to a new day. And we get to see what we've done in this life. How many times have we loved? How many times did we forgive people? How many times did you do something nice for somebody who most people say don't deserve it? How many times were you rude, aggressive, angry? How many times did you experience hatred? And when you, on the other side, you see that, but you can't make any changes there. So we reincarnate. So we can continue to awaken ourselves. It's what we do. We're continually awakening, going to sleep, into an incarnation, and waking up. Sometimes, if we're really, really good at it, and you've done enough stuff in a previous life, which all of you have, then it's possible for you to wake up in this life. So, here we are. In this moment, there is no politics. In this moment, everyone and everything is part of us. In deep meditation, you sink into the endless sea of creation. You move to the spot before creation, what the Hindus call Brahma, the space of no things, nothing, just an emanation of pure love. Love. And that love seeks to express, and when it starts to express, things are created. And when there becomes things, and the experience of things, we refer to that as Vishnu. It's beauty, it's dancing, it's poetry, it's art, it's embracing each other, it's helping each other, it's being of service, being kind and gentle, especially to yourself. In enlightenment, there is no guilt and there is no shame. In this moment, if you're with me, you'll see there's no guilt and shame here. And if you look a little deeper and can open yourself up a little bit, which is hard, I understand, but be brave and open your heart and feel love, stillness, perfection. Enlightenment. And in that moment of feeling that, you'll notice that there's a part of you that's trying to figure this out. Can you stop it? Can you stop that voice inside your head that keeps asking who, what, when, how, and why? And just be here. What binds us together is the infinite spirit, that which is in all things. Everything is made of it. Every single thing, every atom, every molecule, every animal, every insect, every reptile, every fish, every bird, every person. The infinite is expressing itself. So, as a person who's been around a fairly long period of time, I invite you to take another look at yourself. Everybody's fallen short. You came into this life with flaws. You had things you hadn't worked out in your previous life. You had people you couldn't stand. Maybe you were racist. Maybe you were mean. Maybe you were cruel. Maybe you lived without empathy or compassion. And so you were born in this life. To parents, to a society that would make sure that you got to deal with those things. I've said many times, one of the reasons you have relatives is that you'd never hang out with them otherwise. But because they're relatives, you learn to love them. You wonder why you have the partners you have, and why when you're so much in love when you meet, and then after a while you start snipping and sniping at each other. It's because you are drawn together to work on those issues. And you can either face them and deal with life directly, or you can run away. And then in the next life, you get to do it again. So it behooves us to develop ourselves. I refer to this life as a rock tumbler. We're inside this rock tumbler, and we have these edges, and we're hitting against other rocks, and they're hitting our edge, and it hurts. We don't like to see that. We don't like to watch how we're reacting. It's painful here. But our soul wants to be smooth, without any edges. But we're in this rock tumbler, and it just keeps tumbling. 10,000 lifetimes, you're tumbling in this rock tumbler, coming in and going out. And each time you go in, you're working on those edges you didn't work out the time before. But we're coming into a point now in time. Humanity has finally reached this point where we're moving into a pretty nice situation. The resistance to that is great. People are fighting with each other, doing horrible things to each other, saying horrible things, being unfair, being cruel. Evaluate yourself this solstice. Gently tell yourself and convince yourself that you need to change. realize that there is no excuse for ever being mean or rude. There's never an excuse for violence, for hatred, for vengeance. Quit complaining. You're just adding power to that. If you're complaining, do something about it. Get a new job. Work it out with your partner. And if they don't want to work it out, find a partner who will. But you're here to awaken. We keep falling into this dream, lifetime after lifetime. You think it's unfair. It's not. It's completely fair. It's all done by karma. There are no victims here. We like to think they're victims, but there aren't. It's all karma. Things that they did in the past life, they didn't work out. Now they're getting a chance to look at it again. But sometimes it's the karma to be with somebody who's suffering, and it's their karma to have you show up and be the hero. This world is in sad shape, but it's awakening. There are more awakened teachers in the world today than at any time in history, and they just keep waking up, and so will you if you want to. But it takes a sense of resolve to face yourself, to deal with your fears, your anxieties, to keep asking yourself, why are you hanging on so hard? Okay, what's this? So on this solstice, I recommend, as I said before, that you take time to evaluate your life. Who do you need to forgive? Who do you need to ask forgiveness of? If you hurt them and they know it, then you should ask forgiveness. It's tough for some people, yeah. But there's no other way. You truly do have to pray for your enemies. Pray for them to awaken. They wouldn't be doing that sort of stuff if they were not asleep. They don't know what they're doing. But you're waking up. You don't have to be part of their nightmare. And you may not be able to wake them up, but you show compassion. Life without compassion is a living death. Hatred, anger, aggressive behavior, without regard for others, will take you directly into hell, where you're probably at most of your life. Hell isn't something you experience after life. You're in it right now. But when you wake up, this is heaven. You just have to wake up from the nightmare of the day. Quit blaming others. Quit blaming yourself. Forgive yourself. Seek the internal spirit that's within you. Ask for forgiveness. Forgive everyone. And start new. It's an old message. Love one another. If you don't like the darkness, focus on the light. Become the light. Be the light. It's never too late. You can end up this incarnation enlightened. You just have to let go of the nightmare. I know. Okay. Let's meditate to a piece of nice music. Let me see here. For this piece of music, I'd like for you to focus on your heart. Focus on your heart and your third eye. And just, when you're focusing on your heart and your third eye, just open up to spirit, whatever you consider that to be. Just take a breath. Yes.
I think what I always forget when I'm not sitting with you is that moment of quiet that I can get to.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my meditation I get to certain moments of quiet, but sitting with you really, as I always say, it's like you meditate us rather than we meditate. I think that's an interesting aspect of this.
I think we do that with everyone.
How's that?
Who we are is what they pull from us. You pull from me a very special thing, and it opens something up inside of you. When people see you, you open stuff inside of them too. So that's why it's really important for us to make sure that we keep ourselves in a pretty high consciousness so that we're a gift to people. And we're not projecting our fears and our angers and our insecurities on them. So it's important to overcome the fears and anxieties and all the things that we complain about and that frighten us in the middle of the night, that wake us up in the middle of the night with, oh my God, oh my God. What is that? These things that are unresolved, and I'm speaking to everyone here. These things that are unresolved have to be resolved, or they just keep reoccurring. We can call them demons if you want. They just keep poking you with their little pitchforks until one day you stop and you look at them and you say, who's your father? Where did you come from? And why am I even indulging in this when it's so far from the Father? Jesus gave a parable once about the prodigal son. The prodigal son took his father's gifts and left. Riotous living. He had a ball until his money ran out. And then his friends left him. He goes downhill. He ends up fighting the pigs for food in the pigsty. And he wakes up and he says, my servants in my father's house are better than this. Maybe I'll just go back and be a servant. Be of service. So he goes back to his father, which is a higher self. And his higher self saw him coming and ran to meet him, embraced him with all of his filth and stench, brought him into the home, fixed a feast, a big party. His brothers stood up and they said, why are you doing this for him? We didn't leave. We've been here the whole time. He says, yeah, but he left and he came back. We're coming back. We've all been in that pigsty. We've all been in depression. We've all been wrapped up in fear and bigotry and anger and prejudice and all kinds of nasty things. Hatred. Oh. Can you decide to leave it and to go back into spirit? So I went to those places. I experienced terrible things. I did terrible things. I misbehaved. I had moments of rage and anger, and violence. But they were just wounds. And when I started healing myself by confronting what was bothering me and why, when I gave up those things that I didn't understand. When I started hanging out with people that I was not familiar with hanging out with, people from other races, people from other sexual orientations, people of different political beliefs. If you could just get past all of their anger and everything, you see they've got decency in them down deep. They're just acting out of fear. We all act out of fear, don't we? Fear blinds you. It blinds you. And it comes because you don't realize that you're God. And that you're above that. Are you afraid of God? Really? Well, where did you pick that up? You're made of God. You are God. You can't be away from God. God is in everything. It's in these beautiful flowers. It's in this nice little speaker. God's in this wonderful sheepskin. Oh, I caught the sheepskin's okay, by the way. They ate the sheep. What are you going to do with the skin? Well, let's meditate on it. What a wonderful thing to do. Things die. We die. Is your life going to become a sheepskin? Will people put their feet on it and meditate? Pay attention. As Christ said, he who has ears to see, eyes to see and ears to hear, I'll get that one right. Pay attention. Things are going on underneath the surface here. This is not a normal conversation. I don't have normal conversations. I see deeply into all of you. I see your lives. I see your past lives. You don't fool me a bit. You can fool yourself. But I know who you are, and I want you to wake up. Quit it. Quit hurting yourself. Quit hurting others. Do something nice for people. Even people that you used to not like at all, do something nice for them. When I was in Hungary with one of my friends who's enlightened, he had his students make a big, like 1,000 sandwiches. And they went out to where the immigrants were that were all pinned up from Syria. And they fed them. One of the guys who'd been in the military said, I couldn't stand these people. I hated them. I wanted them dead. But when I started giving them sandwiches, I started seeing they were just like me. Why are you putting up these barriers? Why are you becoming a Democrat or a Republican? Why can't you just do what's right? Why do you have to have all of these things that separate you from others? You're God. This is yoga. This is union. This is enlightenment. You can do better. And I know you will, or you wouldn't be in this room. This particular solstice is a very powerful one. And I have been, just like I've recommended to you folks, I have spent, and I will continue to do this for the next week, because the solstice energy goes from a week before to a week after. It's just at the most right now. But in my traveling and stuff, I think about my life. And sometimes, though, I'm just driving down and I'll have this thought hit me of a memory or something somebody said or something caught on the TV or something, and it just burns into my mind. And I always take that as an opportunity to look at, if that's bothering me, then it must be in me. And I'm not talking about words or things, but I'm talking about energy. If there's an energy, for instance, one of the things, I was driving and I had a wonderful experience with this about 2 years ago. Driving down the road and this guy was trying to run me off the road. He was really angry. It was an experience to be out there on that road by yourself, and this guy's filled with rage. And I looked and and part of me started reacting to the rage, and I thought, where does that come from? That man was a great spiritual teacher to me. Because he caused me to look at myself. He caused me to examine myself. And there I found it. There was the rage. I had suppressed it. It was like a festering boil. And when I looked into it and saw its root and where it came from, it's like the boil burst and I started to heal. Yesterday's gone. You can't bring it back, nor do you want to. The future is just a fantasy. It's a dream. We're in the present. But there's something interesting about us. We are dreamers. Think about it. You're in the image and likeness of the Creator. The Creator is a dreamer. The Creator dreamt this whole thing. It created you individually in the image and likeness of itself. You're a small fractal of the big one. What you focus on, you tend to experience. If you're focusing on the things that frighten you, that's why fear is so powerful. Fear is a very powerful thing. Nothing gets you galvanized in your attention like fear. And fear is usually brought about by, well, it's always brought about by a sense of separation. Okay, see if you can grasp this. Follow with me here. Hang on just a minute. Let me do something here first. Mm. When you were born, your soul, at the moment you took your first breath, actually it started a little bit with the quickening, but really it was established at the first breath of life. It's when it really all started. It was incubating a little bit before that, but at that moment, your soul entered into the body, right through the soft spot. And as it came down, it just lit up every chakra, pop, 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 hooked into the root chakra. And it stays hooked into the root chakra until you die. Then the root chakra lets you go, exit out. So you found yourself dropping into this little body, what the Tibetans call the six-windowed house, the five senses and your mental capacity. And you're in this environment where everything is limited. You're in an environment of things, first of all. There's things, you become aware of objects, and these start to take forms. And then you get lost in the Maya. You're dreamt. Your mind and your consciousness is dreamt by everyone and everything around you. A very limited dream, because everyone and everything around you has limited consciousness. But one of the things that makes it all happen is your ego. Your ego is kind of important in this process, actually. What the ego demands is, who am I? Where am I? What am I? How am I? Why am I? And then it turns it on everything else. Who are they? What is that? Why are they? And so people, as human beings, we get locked into a consciousness early in life, like within the first few weeks. And then as we explore life, our experience of life expands, and we're constantly filling in the spots. It's what we call becoming educated or whatever. You go into I walked into an algebra class. I knew nothing of algebra. It was torture. It was torture for me. But by the end of this semester, I kind of had algebra down a little bit. I had grown. My ego had figured out who, what, when, and how. Now I'm okay. And then something else happens. You're always being expanded. And where people get in trouble is when they don't want to change. They're afraid to let go of their life. They're afraid to let go of all of the things that they consider make them who they are. And so they hang on. I watched, when I was in the New Mexico State University, my anthropology class, they showed a Jane Goodall movie about the baboons. And I remember there was this one part of that movie that struck me very intensely, and that was this mother baboon. Her little baby died. And she kept trying to get it to suckle, and she kept trying to get it, and she wouldn't let it go. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, it was just, pretty bad. It was, just fur over a skeleton. And she was sitting there, and she was just weeping and working with that, and working with it. And off to the side, you could see the other baboons kind of looking at each other, and kind of looking at each other, looking at her, looking at each other. And they ran over and attacked her and took the baby away, the corpse, and threw it into the river. And she was screaming and yelling and screaming and yelling. But within a day or two, she was back in the pack. She was fine. Part of this solstice is to look at yourself and say, is there part of my life that's dead that I'm just carrying around, mourning for something from the past that will never come back? I was talking to a man who was a homeless man once. I was having a conversation with him. He says, you know, I used to be top salesman. I had an office. I was making good money. I says, really? He said, yes, I was doing really good. But then they came in and they stole me. They took it away from me. So he just gave up. He just gave up. He couldn't let go of the dead baby. And it made him homeless. Now I use that as kind of a rarity. It's a true story, by the way, but as that's an extreme, look at yourself. What are you hanging on to that you don't need? What is that thing that you're feeling so guilty about, or so terrified of, or so ashamed of, or so fearful of? What is it? And if it's in the past, why are you hanging on to it? And that's a good question to ask yourself. Why am I hanging on to something that I cannot change? It's dead. It's gone. Why am I continuing to try to get it to come back to life? Throw it in the river. You'll get over it quick enough, and then you'll be okay. There'll be new babies. There won't be any new babies till you get rid of that corpse. So what's not serving you? And this is a good time of year to look at that. What's not serving you? Awaken. I can tell you enlightenment's a hoot. You can quote me. It's got a very bad rap. People think you have to hold your arm up above your head for decades, or suffer. No, life, this is creation here. How much do you love? How much do you forgive? How much do you selflessly serve others? What brings you light? What brings you joy? And if it doesn't bring you light or joy, then you have to ask yourself, why am I carrying this dead corpse trying to breathe life back into it? Better to let it go and find out something beautiful. This is a very interesting planet that we incarnated into. It's dimensionally a cross-section, very unusual. It's a cross-sectional between heaven and hell worlds, all right here on this planet. Just look around. You can be in heaven, be in Hawaii or Detroit, have a good time. Or you can become full of hatred and anger and fear and go off and try to fight, go out and try to kill those murderers, which I think is a fascinating concept. Just let it go. Meditate. Seek the infinite. Seek to wake up. Forgive yourself. Please. It doesn't serve you to wallow around in your self-pity or your anger. It keeps you stuck. And I'll end with one of my favorite stories, and it's from Ram Dass. And he talked about having this Volkswagen bus, and behind this bus he had a little trailer full of all of his stuff. And he took it to New York, and then he pulled it back to California, pulled it back to New York, and he's heading back to California. And he pulled off to the side of the road, I think probably in Nebraska or Kansas. Got out, looked at that trailer that was full of his stuff that he had hauled back and forth across the country a couple of times. He unhooked the trailer, set fire to it, and left. Take your stuff, unhook from it, set fire to it, and get on with your life. Life's beautiful. What you focus on, you tend to become. What you hang on to holds you. Just be fluid. Be willing to face your fear. If you're afraid of loving because you've been hurt, well, that's crazy. I've had lots of lovers. I loved all of them, and when it hurt, when they left, it always hurt. But my goodness, you got to have love. You can't just walk around and mope and cry all day. I guess I did. I have done that I did it one time for like 3 months. And one day I woke up and said, well, that's not good. That's not serving me. And I just got up and said, I'm not going to do it anymore. That's all you have to do. I'm not going to do that anymore. I've done enough of that. How many times in your life have you woken up and found that to be true? You did something over, and one day you say, I'm done with that guy. It's over. Don't want him back no more. Done with that job. Seek the brightest, seek the happiness. Seek love. Change your life. Become enlightened. I'm here to help you with that. It's the only thing that's keeping me in the body. So while I'm here, take advantage. There are other teachers too. God is everywhere. The infinite is expressing itself all the time. We're entering into a new age. It's a birth right now. And it's painful and messy and terrifying. I understand births are like that. I've had 2 sons. I watched both of them come into the world. It was messy, painful, a lot of labor to watch that baby. But once the baby is out, all of the labor and the pain, all of that has disappeared in a sea of love and happiness. When you're in a delivery room and the baby comes out, everybody cheers. The baby's coming out. The world, it doesn't look like it. It looks pretty bad. People are really fighting out there. Nobody's listening to anyone. You know, ask yourself, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? I think I'd rather be happy. I packed a lot in this evening. I probably talked too much. I always talk too much. Thank you for coming. I hope our paths cross again. Namaste.
Namaste.